Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, dust off your 3DS for Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host. His name is Mark Mitchell.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I don't think we mentioned this last week, but last week I had a like a bruise on my eye.
I was politely not mentioning it.
Yeah,
yes.
we didn't talk about it at all, but my eye was just like watering through the entire time we recorded.
I quietly crept away and grabbed a box of Kleenex for you.
This week, feeling great.
What? So was that allergies? Is that what was happening?
No,
last
it wasn't allergies. It was like, I was outside on Sunday.
Sounds like allergies so far.
No. I was outside, and a large truck kicked something up, and it got into my eye, and so I was dealing with that last week.
That's terrible.
But we muscled through.
We did. We soldiered on. I don't remember what we talked about. Oh, one thing. Let's do a little debug here.
Okay, yeah.
So last week we mentioned BB King, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mark said he was playing jazz guitar. It's blues, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We got corrected on that hardcore.
So
I got slammed down for that.
Slammed down. It was traumatic to witness the slam down.
It was an in-person slam.
An in-person slam, which is much more difficult than an on-the-internet slam.
Absolutely.
Weather report, been kind of warm, but it's pleasant right now.
Yeah.
Mark, what have you been playing?
We both been playing Donkey Kong Country 2.
Yeah, we have.
If you have been listening to our play-along, you know that we are not enjoying that game.
The worm has turned! Yeah, and so that's just gonna continue for a little bit. Yeah.
I guess like I'm kind of bummed because I was really expecting to like it.
Yeah.
Because I really like the original Donkey Kong Country, and I had heard really good things about the sequel, but here we are.
Here we are indeed. What else you been playing?
Zelda, Breath of the Wild, of course.
Yeah, I saw you putting in time this weekend.
Yeah. So when I defeated Ganon, I still had about 20 shrines left.
That's still so many shrines.
Well, so I put in time this weekend, while my boyfriend was in Vancouver.
There you go.
And I found 19 of the 20. So
wait a minute. So you have 119 shrines?
Yeah. So I think there's only 120 in the game, so I only have one left, but I have no clue where it is. Like I have no idea.
Yeah, you need that Path of the Hero DLC, the one that'll show you where you've walked.
Yeah,
because there's some part of that map you have not traversed.
There must be, but also you get to the point where like the ones that you're missing are the ones that don't show up on the like you don't get in the shrine.
Sure, yeah.
Finder, whatever they call that.
Right.
The Sheikah sensor.
Right.
Sheikah sensor.
Right.
They don't show up there. So you could just be like wandering around
forever.
And they get like tricky. Like, they like start turning them around so they don't glow. Like you can't see them from like
or
your
like,
approach.
or they're buried under something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I think it's going to drive me crazy.
You're not going to look it up?
I don't even know how I would look it up.
I mean, you would have to look at a map like on your computer and compare it to a map and you would have to check 120 things.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting. I mean, I guess I could open it up an Excel file, type in all the ones I found, go online, find the names for all of them, and then like cross-reference it and see which one I'm missing. But even it's
that sounds tedious.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
I'm living a nightmare. What about you?
I've been continuing to play Puyo Puyo Tetris. I like that game a lot, but I've been playing a ton of Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia this weekend. like I said in the cold open, dusting off the old 3DS. And we will talk more about that later in the episode.
I've also been playing Disgaea 5 Complete, the demo that was released last week. Are you familiar with the series at all? I wasn't before
I'm not.
It seems like a super in-depth RPG. Like the amount of customization that's available is crazy.
Sure. So is it like menu-based combat?
Yeah, it's like a tactical RPG, like a Fire Emblem type thing, where you move your characters, but and you can move, let's say you have like 5 in your party with you or something.
Yeah.
You can move all 5 and then you decide like what they're going to do. And then you press like the attack button and it like goes through the like all 5 actions.
Yeah.
And so this is helpful so that way you can put 2 of your characters next to each other and they can perform combos.
Sure, yeah.
And then like at the end, after you've defeated the enemies, depending on like how well you performed, you get certain items. And then each stage has a like bonus that you get for performing like the best possible, like in S class basically. It seems really fun. And it seems like the presentation is fun if you're, and like looking at it, when I first downloaded it and saw screenshots, it's very anime. It's very like bosomy women,
right?
And like that sort of thing.
Some of these things we're never going to escape.
But it has a sense of humor about itself that I wasn't expecting. Like the voice acting is pretty bad, but the writing isn't terrible. And I'm basing this all off the demo. And the like some of the combos are funny. It seems like a pretty cool game.
You had fun with the
demo.
I
had fun with the demo. Yeah.
Do you think that you will carry on into the full game?
I don't think so because I don't have the amount of time to pour into this that I think it would require.
Yeah, I get that. That's been one of the things about Fire Emblem. I feel like I was playing it all weekend. I've got like 10.5 hours on my play clock, which means I've played more because any fight where I lose someone, I go back and start it over. But like even in that, I feel like I have played so little of this game. And that's a lot of time. But we will talk more about Fire Emblem later in the show. Mark, let's get into the news.
Hey, there was an ARMS Direct last week.
There sure was, and we didn't say anything about it.
Well,
because we had no idea.
We had no idea. They like announced it one day, and then it was,
and they played
it
the next. Right.
So 4 new characters were announced, bringing the total roster to 10 playable characters. The new ones were Kid Cobra, Helix, Bite and Bark, and how do you say this last one?
Twintel.
Okay, so Twintel is the one that the internet loves. The internet loves.
So Twintel, she is a movie star, right? Her arms are on her hair, and she's a curvy lady.
Yeah, she's got a big butt.
She's got a big butt. I like right after the announcement, I had to look up 2 terms. One was waifu, and the other is thick, spelled with 2 C's.
I think it's nice that you've been living in a world like your own that you didn't know, that you had never heard of waifu before.
No, the thing is, I knew waifu, and I was like, I need to double check it.
Oh, okay.
But thick, I legit had to look up. And waifu, of course, is someone believing a fictional character, usually a cartoon or puppet or something, is a character that they're in a physical romantic relationship with, usually associated with like anime body pillows. And then thick is just a curvy woman. So the internet loves Twintel.
Surprise!
The internet loves Twintel.
I like Bite and Bark.
Okay, Bite and Bark are
Bite and Bark are my twintel.
right. They're a robot cop and his robot cop dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other characters are, Kid Cobra is a
Yeah, whatever.
snake something, and Helix is like a little green blob.
Yep.
Um, so we're excited about 2 of these 4 characters.
I mean, are we excited about 2 of these 4 characters?
I don't know. I guess I meant we in the like general sense. You, me, the audience.
So we learned some more stuff about arms. In fact, we learned a lot about it.
Yeah.
So there are customizable arms. Each character has 3 different arms to choose from with different weights, attributes, etc. And you equip 2 arms each time you select a fighter, mean there's like an endless amount of combinations.
Right. So everyone has 3, and you can equip, 1 on the left and 1 on the right. So it does, even though the roster is like 10 is pretty low for a fighting game. But when you add all of those different variations, and they don't seem like minor variations, they seem like big differences. And they have those like environmental, or not environmental, like elemental like qualities to them, and sometimes some. Did you see that there's one that blinds, and it's like getting the squid ink in or the blooper in Mario Kart, where you just can't see what's going on? It's cool to see them like mess with like the various ways that a power up could be effective against someone.
Yeah, when I first heard about like the different like weights and stuff, I thought it was going to be more like the customization you can do for your carts in Mario Kart, where
Mhm.
like it has minor differences but doesn't really make all that much of a difference what you choose.
Yeah, like I think that's also what I thought too, that it was going to be a lot of like really nitpicky kind of like, oh well, this is a little bit faster, a little bit tighter handling here. But no, it seems like every different arm you equip drastically changes the way you have to fight with that character.
There's also a ton of game modes.
Oh yeah.
There's fight, which is just 2 fighters battling each other one-on-one, and then like items drop and there's healing and all that kind of stuff. Team fight, where 2 players are tethered to each other and must team up to battle like 2 other players.
I love that they're like tethered together. Did you ever play Knuckles Chaotix on the Sega 32X?
No.
It was a Knuckles game, like of Sonic and Knuckles fame, where it's side scrolling, and the 2 characters are tethered together by like a rubber band almost, and you have to use the momentum that they create by like pulling each other to like launch yourself up and like get to new platforms and cross things.
That sounds pretty fun.
It actually was. I assume this is nothing like this, but anytime characters are tethered together, I'm like, ooh, a chance to mention Knuckles Chaotix.
There's V-Ball, which is arms volleyball, and B-Hoops, which is arms basketball, and that actually looks like a lot of fun.
They both actually sound like fun. I can see messing around with either the V-Ball or Hoops mini games in this.
Skill shot, 1-on-100, like a test and training mode.
So a lot of that sounds like Smash Brothers modes to me, right? Especially like that 1 versus 100 is, and the skill shot, which is basically like the targets in Smash. So I don't know. I think it's cool that they're finding other ways, or like other things you can do with the mechanics that you learn in the rest of the game.
There's of course Grand Prix, which is the story like arcade mode. Party match, where you can have 10 to, and if you have 2 switches in the like 20 people in a lobby, and then you're fighting 2 of them at random.
Yeah, the party match seems.
Oh, no, you can battle with up to 3 other. So you can have 4 people.
Right, but
Yeah.
they're up to 10 systems can be waiting in the lobby. So like, well, yeah, I don't know. It's it's unclear to me exactly how all of these things work in practice. They kind of sped through some of these game modes. But yeah, that it seems like there's an active way to like have people playing and watching and waiting and all of that.
There's ranked match, which seems like it's, it looks like they're gunning a little bit for the esports audience potentially.
Yeah, and I have no idea how the esports community is reacting to this game. Mostly, I just know how the greater internet is reacting to Twintel.
And specifically the fan art community.
Yes, they're loving it.
And then, of course, local wireless mode. So there's a lot going on in ARMS. Like it's much more robust than just what we saw in the initial reveal.
Right, and it's not to suggest that there's like a big story or anything like that. Even though it's weird the way that Nintendo sort of like hints at the story, especially at the beginning of this direct when they're like, no one knows what like there's a mythology kind of baked into the actual ARMS, and like within the universe of ARMS, it is novel that these characters have springy arm things that are also weapons.
It feels to me like they're taking a lot of cues from Splatoon.
Absolutely,
and the success that they had there.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course there's going to be free DLC in the future, which apparently will be free, including new arms, new stages, new fighters.
That's a big deal. The new fighters in particular, but I mean, kind of all of it, right? It's again the Splatoon model, where the game launched with not a whole lot of content, and then just got bigger and bigger as it went. This feels to me, and we obviously haven't played it yet, but it feels like it's a more complete package from the get-go. So it's cool that they are continuing to support it afterwards with, again, I mean, like free new characters. Maybe that's just the way fighting games are now, but like that's cool.
Neither of us have been super excited for ARMS. Did this do anything to change your mind?
I mean, I don't know that I'm like way on board now, but I am. Yeah. It did a little bit to change my mind for sure.
I'm definitely more excited for this game than I was initially.
Yes.
I'm still not crazy hyped for it.
Yeah, I'm still not totally in love with the aesthetic of it. I know people are responding well to the characters Twintel, and maybe some others, I don't know. Twintel. But like I don't totally love it, I guess, at this point.
Yeah,
But
the aesthetic I like find appealing, or appealing enough. To me, it's more I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it during the test punch, I guess.
yeah, which by the way is absolutely a term that you and I were using when we were talking about the Splatoon global test fire. We definitely said, who could use one of these? ARMS could use a global test punch. We said this.
Definitive
and irrefutable. We said this.
I'm looking forward to the test punch, a term that we coined.
Yep.
Because the thing that is I'm hesitant about ARMS is like motion controls.
Yeah.
And will it be fun with motion controls? And if it's not fun with motion controls, will it be fun just playing with a regular controller?
Yeah, so all of the impressions I've read have said two things. One, that it plays better with motion controls than without, and two, that the motion controls work, which I guess are sort of the same point, but
like work versus is it fun?
Great question.
And so that's what I think the test punch is a great idea because not only did we come up with the name, but I think it's very necessary to have people like get a hands on, try it out for themselves.
And I think more so than Splatoon, which already has like good word of mouth, and people kind of inherently understand, 4-person shooter, like squad based, like everyone understands that already. You don't really need to demonstrate it. Whereas ARMS kind of does feel like a new kind of game. Like we've been saying fighting game, but it seems like it has elements of like a one-on-one shooter almost, and maybe even some strains of like Punch Out or Telero Boxer.
Well, especially because there are times when you're going to be fighting more than one person. Like it's not like one-on-one is just a mode.
Yeah, great point. So yeah, we need to get this game in our hands. So the global test punch, when we will all have the opportunity to do so, there are two of them. The first one is coming up this weekend, May 26th through the 28th. There's a Friday date, and then Saturday and Sunday you can check out what the actual times are. Because again, just like Splatoon, it's a specific time frame during which you can play the game. And then the weekend following, which is June 2nd to the 4th. And then the game itself comes out 2 weeks later. So
And you can download the Test
Mhm.
Punch now.
yeah, and if you bring up the Test Punch, you get to hear some cool ARMS music. I like this. I like the music so far.
Yeah,
in
I
this
do
game.
too. Also part of the ARMS Direct, they know where their bread is buttered.
Yeah, that's right.
And they tagged a Splatoon 2 trailer on the end of it that kind of showed off the Splatoon 2 single-player campaign.
I'm excited about this thing.
It looks like... Now, I never played the Splatoon single-player, but you were saying that it's like bigger than people give it credit for, like more robust than people give it credit for,
Mhm.
but it's still fairly bare bones.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, even at its best, it's like kind of obstacle coursey. That it never. It looks like it could be a like freer kind of open world, but is funneled into these very specific things that it wants you to experience and ways to solve puzzles and stuff. But like the story that was kind of woven into there was really neat. I'm excited about the story elements that they're pushing here, because Callie and Mari, the Squid sisters, they were the hosts of the original Splatoon. So they would announce whenever maps changed, and they're just it's a stupid little like Nintendo way to put personality on something that has no personality, right? And there were these events called Splatfests where you would sign up for a side. It'd be something like cats and dogs, or like cheeseburgers versus pizza. And then you would just play against people who were on the opposite side. And the last Splatfest was Callie versus Mari. And so, we all played in that, and everyone picked a side, and then they were like, no more Splatfests. And in the story mode here, the story is that Callie and Mari have had this bitter feud that like we kicked off as part of this Splatfest, and now one of them is missing. I don't remember which one. And so you have to help Callie find Mari, or Mari find Callie, whichever it is. But I love this idea that like there's an event that I participated in, that I actually did this, that would that like sets up the story for Splatoon 2. It's so cool to me.
Yeah, Splatoon 2 seems like so much fun. I think this game is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Especially with the Switch being the success that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think in Japan Nintendo can possibly stock enough systems
Oh,
for
definitely
when this
not.
gets released. Especially because as part of at the end there, they showed off a couple of new bundles. If you were in Japan and Europe.
Sure.
Because it doesn't seem like any of this stuff that we're about to talk about is coming to North America.
Which is kind of a bummer, because there's a piece of this that I think is really cool.
So both Europe and Japan are getting a Splatoon 2 Switch bundle, plus Nintendo announced new Joy-Con colors. It's a neon pink and green. Like
kind
neon
of the
pink and neon
Splatoon-
green.
Yeah.
And then a Pro controller where what would you call those? Like
the kind of grips on the
yeah,
side.
the grips on the side are neon. One's neon pink and one's neon green.
It's so cool, and I feel like by the time Splatoon and ARMS are both out, that I may have need for a second set of Joy-Con, especially if ARMS ends up being fun, and I want to play 2-player, and we all want to use motion controls. But like, I don't want just like another set of gray. I guess you could get the normal neon red.
But I don't really
neon
want those
blue.
I mean, in ARMS at that point we'll have the
yellow ones,
and I don't want those. I really like these neon green and neon pink.
Yeah.
I think they're really fun.
I think they're the winners right now. I think if we're gonna rank all of if we are going to have a definitive ranking of the Joy-Con
which we
colors,
are
right? Which we are. At the top of the list is Splatoon, and then probably gray, and then yellow, and then red and blue.
Yeah, I mean, I have my quibbles, but we'll save that for later.
We'll save that for the list.
Yeah, it's really okay. So in Europe, the bundle is just the Switch, the game, and I'm assuming it's gonna be a download code for the game, but that's purely an assumption on my part. And then, but it will have the regular neon blue and neon red.
Oh, okay.
But in Japan, the bundle is going to include the new neon green and neon pink Joy-Con.
Okay. And are the neon green and neon pink Joy-Con going to be available? We don't know.
I think they're
separately.
They're in Japan.
Anywhere.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Because they're both the Pro Controller and these new and the Joy-Con in these new colors are going to be released in Europe.
Okay.
In addition to Japan. But as far as we know, they're not coming to North America.
I don't understand. I don't know how they make these choices.
I don't understand either. I don't know why are we not getting a Splatoon bundle?
It seems, why aren't we getting any bundles? I mean, other than, of course, they just can't keep them in stock anyway, so why bundle anything? Just keep putting out the system and we'll buy the game separately. I guess that's it. That's the answer. Mark, let's take a quick break.
Patrick, can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah, you can.
Are you wearing comfortable underwear?
My goodness. That's a personal question.
Are you wearing the most comfortable underwear you could possibly be wearing? Because I don't mean to brag, but I am.
I'd like to hear more about this comfortable underwear you're wearing, Mark.
It's underwear from MacWeldon.com.
I knew this is where this was going because I also have some very comfortable underwear and I got it from MacWeldon.com.
Are you briefs? What's your deal?
Yeah, so I wear briefs.
And I wear boxer briefs.
Neither of us wear boxers.
No.
But they sell all of these things.
Yes.
Also socks, hoodies, shorts.
And if you shop at MacWeldon.com and you use our promo code Nintendo, you get 20% off your order.
That means you pay less for clothing that's more comfortable than the clothing you're wearing right now. Plus, of course, you're wearing MacWeldon.com, in which case, you can't wear .com, you can't wear the website.
Not yet.
Not yet. But perhaps with promo code Nintendo, you could do it for a little bit cheaper.
But here's the thing. Let's say you did want to wear, you are trying to wear the website, so you ordered the website.
Right.
Right? And then you're like,
delivered to your door.
And you're like, this website isn't comfortable to wear at all.
Right. You know what you can do?
You can keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell MacWeldon you're not happy with it, and they'll refund your money, no questions asked. And that's not just for their website. That's for their underwear,
for the clothing, right?
Their socks, their hoodies, all those things I have, and all of them are the most comfortable.
So most of the ordering process here, super easy. It's like anything you've ever purchased. It might be more difficult to purchase the website on the website, but if you do manage to do it and you're not satisfied, you get a full refund. And the whole thing was 20% less expensive because you used promo code Nintendo.
Yeah, so it's MacWeldon.com, promo code Nintendo. In an interview with The Verge, Fire Emblem echoes Shadows of Valentia. Is it Valentia or Valencia?
Valentia.
That makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just used to Valencia up the road there.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
I mean, it's not spelled the same.
No, but it's virtually the same. And, someone was like, Valencia. Sure.
So the director of Shadows of Valentia, do you want to take a stab at this? I feel like I butcher Japanese names enough.
Kenta Nakanishi?
I love it. Said that if he could remake any Fire Emblem game, it would be the Binding Blade. Binding Blade was previously only available in Japan on the GBA. It was released in 2002 and tells the story of Roy.
Yeah. That's the Roy one. And Roy is
our boy.
All right.
What?
Right.
It was fun when we talked about the Mario.
I'm leaving.
What? No, it was fun when we talked about the Mario Kart character, but we can't.
Oh, yeah.
This Roy, we can't say that.
It's a different Roy.
I know, but he could.
That Roy is my boy. No, he's a Fire or Smash Brothers character.
He's a Fire Emblem character, but the only reason we know about him is because he's in Smash Brothers.
And then he's also been featured in basically all of the modern Fire Emblem games through amiibo support. So, and in Fire Emblem Heroes. So, Roy is like a part of the zeitgeist, and we have no way to play that game. The game about him in English.
Now, of course, part of the deal with Fire Emblem Echoes as branding is I'm pretty sure the idea is they can use that for further remakes in the future.
I mean, we'll see, right? This interview, within this interview in The Verge, he was talking about why the game got a renaming like this. And, the original title of the Famicom game was a Fire Emblem Gaiden, which means side story. And so I think they were just like, not marketable. Let's put a cooler name on it. And so they added what sounds like maybe 2 subtitles, Echoes and Shadows of Valentia. In any event, if they were to continue to do Echoes games that are remakes, I mean it's not like the series has no remakes. The Shadow of the Dragon or
so Dragon Shadow, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was a remake of the original Fire Emblem, and there's another one that was Japan only that was a remake of the 3rd game. So now the first 3 games have been remade at some point. So yeah, I mean whether or not they're all called Echoes, they'll keep remaking these games.
NPD reports that for April, the Switch was the best-selling console of the month in the U.S. with over 280,000 units sold, which is cool. But the thing that I thought was interesting that in second place was the NES Classic Edition.
Okay, which begs the question: where are people able to find this thing in April?
Well, I think April was the last time that Nintendo did a concerted dump of them.
Sure.
And I don't think it wasn't huge, obviously.
Right. Fewer than 250,000.
But it had to have been pretty big if it beat out the PS4.
Yeah, I mean I think it's possible that people just aren't. It's tempting to say that the Switch is selling extraordinarily well, as it's beating the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. But I think it's just the Switch is the new thing now. Who's going to invest in new PlayStation hardware at this time? Why would you choose now to buy a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox?
I mean, I don't agree with that. I think the PS4 continues to sell very well.
Yeah, sure.
And
not as well as the Switch though, is the point.
Sure, but I mean, this is also that was the second month that the Switch had been out.
Yeah.
And yeah. Wait, what was your point?
So my point was just that it's not it doesn't seem that this isn't proof that the Switch is invincible and that it's beating PlayStation or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. To me, it's just more interesting that the NES Classic Edition, a system that seemingly nobody could get their hands on, was able to outsell the PS4.
Right. Yeah. No, none of it makes any sense.
And of course, they aren't making any more of these. April was the last month you were going to be able to get them. So
that's the end of that.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling out that they could do another one of those, another NES Classic.
Yeah, I think sure, they totally could. I think it's more likely we see the rumored SNES Classic this holiday instead of them going back to the NES Classic to make you mean a second one with 30 different games,
or even just with an additional 10 games on it. If they did another one of those with 40 games instead of 30.
I think also with as easy as it was proven to be hacked,
yeah,
they don't really have a lot of incentive to do that.
That's interesting. I think people would still buy it though. Honestly, if they put out a version of it that was just the blank version of it, and you could just hack whatever games onto it you wanted, I think people would buy it.
I think so too, but I'm assuming that at some point they're going to get a virtual console rolling.
Yeah.
And there's no reason, even though it's totally true that people would buy it anyways, there's no reason for Nintendo to be yeah, we made this easily.
Yeah, that's true.
This way for you to really easily pirate all of our games.
I mean, unless all they want is the $60 from you buying the box.
Right,
and the controller.
Yeah, 100%. But then they're, they want people to own that and also buy virtual console titles.
Right, but then maybe they're if you buy it on the Switch, then you can play it on the go. And you don't have that on the NES Classic.
Right. That's a good point. It's a different selling point.
I'm just saying people can already download all the ROMs for all of these games and play them on their emulators on their computer
Right.
or phone or
But-
whatever.
Yeah, that's true. We mentioned last week that Inti Creates was preparing to announce 2 new Switch games, and the first turned out to be Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack, and Mighty Gunvolt Burst, which that last one will be coming out for both Switch and 3DS. Mighty Gunvolt Burst seems to be a sequel to the 3DS Mighty Gunvolt eShop release, and then Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack is like a combo of the Azure Striker Gunvolt games that were available, I believe, also on the 3DS.
I don't really know these games.
So the Mighty Gunvolt is like a Mega Man game, basically.
Right. I saw somewhere that they were like very specifically saying that Inafune didn't work on
Yes.
Gunvolt.
Uh-huh.
It's sad to me that they have to distance themselves from the creator of Mega Man because Mighty Number 9 was such a dud.
Right.
But I mean, hey, do what you got to do.
I mean, it was such a dud.
Right.
Azure Striker Gunvolt, I think, is very similar. I think is in the same vein, but
Sure.
I don't know that for sure.
I do know that at some point you were able to play Azure Striker Gunvolt as whatever the Mighty Number 9 character. What's his name? It's like Beck.
Oh, is his name not Mighty Number 9?
No, I mean I think that's the implication that like that would be his title if we gave him one, that he would be the Mighty Number 9. But no, I think his name is Beck. I think it's, and there's another robot named Call, so they're Beck and Call.
Oh.
Again, it's
I get it.
I get it. It's a very thinly veiled clone of Mega Man where the characters are rock and roll, so but stupider.
A bunch of other games were announced for Switch this past week. No. Nobody liked that bit. We're not doing that bit again. It's becoming impractical to list them all, which is cool for the Switch.
Yeah.
That so many, and it's a lot of like, just kind of like we expected, Japanese and indie developers, people who were putting a lot of games on the Vita.
Yeah.
And also, like Western developers, indie developers who are now including Switch in their multi-platform releases. So some of them include Harvest Moon Light of Hope, a game called Backslash from Skeleton Crew Studios, Earth Atlantis, Loon Axe with 3 X's, Owlboy, and a bunch of others.
So Owlboy is exciting to me because it was previously not announced for any consoles. It was just a PC game, and Owlboy looks dope. It's like a flying around Metroidvania with really cool pixel art graphics. I'm very excited to get to play Owlboy on a console, and even more excited that console is the Switch.
Because we want everything on the Switch.
Because we want everything on the Switch. But, I mean, man, Owlboy looks so cool. I'm very excited about this.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had an update release last week. Went up to version 1.1. One of the changes was an animation adjustment for Inkling Girl.
Yeah, so she performed a rude gesture.
It was kind of like an up yours type thing.
Yeah, where she's like one like fist in the air and like putting her opposite hand on like her bicep to be like, hey, up yours, buddy.
And they removed the so she does a fist.
Right, just
they removed the her putting her hand on her other arm.
Right, which I guess eliminates the butt imagery that you're like the up yours. I assume that's why that's there.
I've never explored it before. So now that you're mentioning that, like I guess like so the hand that's on the arm is supposed to be forming like
that you're like elbow deep in someone's rectum.
Oh,
I think that's what like up yours.
I understand.
That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, interesting that was in there in the first place.
I mean, I think it's just a cultural thing that
Yeah.
the Japanese don't realize that what she's doing there means up
yours.
They, just like you and I have never had this conversation about, this implies a butt. They also didn't have that conversation.
That makes sense. And finally, the upcoming Sonic Forces game.
Okay.
This is the new Sonic
All
game
right.
that's coming out this fall. Will allow players to create their own custom hedgehog, or presumably, I guess, other
Sure.
creature.
We got hedgehogs. We got two-tailed foxes. We got echidnas. Is that what Knuckles is?
Yeah.
I was just talking about Knuckles. I don't know what he is. Yeah, this is another recipe for disaster, it seems.
Well, yeah. So it's the game will let people create their own custom characters. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of like the worst version of giving people what they want.
I mean, but sort of in like a harmless way, right? Like if the Sonic fandom has for years just wanted to draw Sonic and do whatever they want with Sonic characters, like they have that opportunity now.
I guess that's true. It's like if you are a really big Sonic the Hedgehog fan and you draw, like in my case, it'd be like Mark the Hedgehog, right? Or like Patrick the Hedgehog.
Sure.
Now you can actually...
These are great examples.
Now you can actually put that character that you created and have them play in a Sonic game.
So great.
Yeah.
Sega reading the market
and
delivering on it.
Yes, exactly.
Should we move into the new releases for the week?
Guess what is... Okay, so on today, on the Wii U, Darksiders War Mastered Edition is coming out, which I learned is just the first Darksiders game. Not 1 and 2. Just one.
Just one?
Yep.
Okay.
Also, reading this, I realized that it's a pun. Instead of remastered, it's War Mastered.
I mean, the other game has the Definitive Edition.
Ugh.
It's real bad puns. Real bad puns.
So weird that this is coming out on the Wii U. Like
Something's gotta, right?
Also today, Disgaea 5 Complete and the Limited Edition are out. And then on May 25th, which is Thursday, Block Zombies and The Girl and the Robot are coming out on the Wii U eShop. And on the Switch eShop, it's Astro Duel Deluxe. Now, is that the Neo Geo game of the week?
Unconfirmed.
Great.
It might be. That sounds like a Neo Geo game.
Sounds like a Neo Geo game.
That sounds like a Neo Geo game.
And then on Friday is Ultra Street Fighter 2, The Final Challengers.
Torn on this one.
On Switch.
Torn on this one. Early impressions of it are like not great.
Are they not great or are they just like blah?
I think they're like blah.
Yeah.
And I suppose what am I expecting? It's Street Fighter 2.
In a lot of ways, and this is somebody who doesn't know Street Fighter 2 like all inside and out, but it looks lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean I don't know, if it's still Street Fighter 2, maybe it doesn't matter if it's lazy. Kotaku ran a piece where they brought the early build of Ultra Street Fighter 2 to a fighting game tournament and had some pro players test it out. And, you know, they were all like, the game runs surprisingly well. It's Street Fighter 2. It's one of the greatest fighting games ever made. So it's a lot of fun. And like the kind of throw down and play aspect of the Switch is genuinely appealing, but you know, it's weird to wrap your hand around those little controllers. And again, Street Fighter 2, you've played it, you know the game already. So I don't know what I'm doing here. The game comes out on Friday. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of it does come down to the idea that you can take it anywhere. A good version of the game, and you can just take it anywhere,
like a definitive version of it.
Also, the game Humanitarian Helicopter is currently free on the North American Wii U eShop. I have no idea what this game is, and
but it is free.
How long the promotion will last? But if you're looking for a free game to pick up, it's usually $10. So you can check out Humanitarian Helicopter.
Hey, that's great. Let's move on to the news. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, we're just going to pose a question to each other today.
Mm-hmm.
If you could be a supervillain and have all the powers and resources of said supervillain, who would it be?
Now, are we? Is anything off limits? Are we saying like this is comic book based? Are we like movies up for grabs? Like, what's the deal?
So I think.
Are we saying DC, Marvel?
No,
like,
I mean we're certainly not being as narrow as DC or Marvel.
Okay.
I think let's be specific. So like if you're gonna say the Joker, which first of all weird, has no superpowers, you would have to pick like a version of the Joker.
Okay, but so let's say comic book supervillain.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
as they appear in whatever.
So my pick is Doctor Doom.
That was gonna be my pick. But it's okay. We could.
My pick is Doctor Doom, and like I don't know that I have a specific like arc or something in mind, but like the fun Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Right. Like the
Doctor Doom who will do stuff just 'cause.
Yeah.
He'll do evil stuff, or like he will unleash terrors on the world because he knows unchecked power. Right? He'll just do stuff because.
But also he has a sense of humor.
Yes. I like that. Also, I think that costume is cool.
Great costume.
Also, he's one of those super wealthy villains who runs a whole country. Now, it would be a bummer to be a catastrophically bad ruler.
Oh, there are downsides for sure.
But like, I feel like you could roll with it, right? You could find ways to become a better ruler.
Yeah, or it doesn't really affect you at all.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because you've got all the money, you've got all the resources.
Yeah, I'm not choosing to be one of the people who lives under him.
Huh. You're not choosing to be a Latvarian? All right. So we've both selected Doctor Doom.
Okay.
Which means Doctor Doom is now off the board.
Yes, open to alternate pitches. Patrick, go.
Oh, geez. My first thought, and this is insane, but I'm going to say Ozymandias from The Watchmen.
Okay.
Because he is all smarts. Even his like kung fu. Even his like fighting ability is derived primarily from his ability to like read the room and figure out what's going to happen next. And his whole thing is like trying to like dismantle the power structure and like make it so people aren't worshiping these false protectors or like these people who've gone crazy with power. So even though he's the villain of the piece, he's kind of doing something righteous, even if he is going to kill 4 million people in doing so. So I'm going to say Ozymandias.
I will also pitch. Oh man, I'm probably going to get this wrong. Is it? Have you seen Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, like the cartoon series?
Yeah.
So there's the one. I think it's the Trickster.
Yeah, okay.
In the episode where like the Flash is trying to get to the grand opening of the Flash Museum, and
wait, so we're talking about the Flash Rogue, the Trickster.
Yeah. And specifically that version of him, where he's just kind of like sad and is supposed to be on his medication and is hanging out at like the bar with all the villains.
Yeah.
And the Flash like goes out of his way to like help him and tells him to be on his medicine and everything.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So why do you choose Trickster?
For that,
because he's sad.
Because I like that version. I like that version of the character.
Yeah, that's good. I think another at this point we're just pitching character villains that we like and would like to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Magneto.
Oh yeah,
gotta go with Magneto. That's another one of those characters where you're like, maybe you're just a misunderstood hero. And also the power to control magnetic fields is like huge, and obviously varying levels of like how much he can actually control
totally
them. But like sometimes it seems like he can do anything. Trace amounts of metal in anything in your blood. Too much iron in your blood, and he can rip that through you.
And the great thing about being Magneto is even if I was on the lower end of the Magneto scale, like I can't crush stadiums or something.
Right. Which is, these are both things we've seen this character do in movies.
One thing I would like to be able to do is when people are parallel parked on a curb just a little too far, you could
just lift up the car.
I could just lift it and move it just a tiny bit so my car would fit. Like, that's a great application of Magneto's power.
Yeah. So you could move people over, you could move them up. You could park your car just like on your roof. And you wouldn't need to drive because if you've got like metal boots, you're just like, well, I'm just going to magnet these things around.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. But I mean, if you need to get the kids or the dog to the vet or something.
Sure, but say goodbye to your gas bills, the bills that you pay for the gas for the gas that you fill your car with, because you could just propel your car forward with the power of magnetic fields.
So I mean, Magneto has it pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Now, all the rest of the baggage comes with it too. So
Right.
you're not just getting a superpower.
Right.
And, that I could take or leave.
Right, but I mean, he also gets to be a revolutionary fighting for mutant rights.
But we'll never know.
But we'll never know. We'll never know. We were accompanied today by pianist William Marks, and let's move on to our topic of the week. Okay, so we're talking about Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, which I put about 10 and a half hours into this weekend. Mark, you did not purchase this game, correct?
That's right. So, and although now I'm like torn on whether I should or not, but initially, or I have not purchased it because I am interested in playing a Fire Emblem game, but this one seems like it is very different from what the series is now.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure if it's a good one to jump into, or if it'd be better to do like Awakening or something that is more like, here's what the future of the series is going to kind of look like, versus here's this side project that is kind of for people who are a little burned out on current Fire Emblem.
Sure. So I can only give a non-committal answer to this. That's sort of like halfway between both of those things you said. Like, the Echoes is an older game, and a lot of the changes that have been made to Fire Emblem have not been implemented at the time that Gaiden came out. And so a lot of the things that are staples, like the relationship building and the weapons triangle, there's a very simple like rock, paper, scissors weapon triangle that is not present in this game. And so like in that way, it is a simpler version of the game, but I think there's also, and I don't see other people talking about this, but the storytelling in this game is also a lot more grounded than in other Fire Emblem games.
So that's like interesting to me.
Yeah. So, and I don't know whether it's a positive or a negative. And again, I'm only like 11 hours into the game, so it's possible some like insane stuff could still happen. But one of the big hooks in Awakening is that halfway through the game, you encounter your main characters encounter their daughter, Lucina, who has come backwards in time from the future where you have failed, and helps you to continue the fight. And throughout the course of the game, if you are pairing these characters up so that they have someone to mate with, you meet all these other children that came from the future and are fighting with you. So there's like time travel and like paradox stuff, and people in different people's bodies and amnesia and all this crazy stuff. Whereas Echoes is a like simple story of, and it's not simple, but there's no like sci-fi weirdness. There are royal children, a pair of siblings who are separated at birth and raised as not princes and princesses, and that's Alm and Celica, our two main characters. And so Alm is the prince who is raised as a like the grandson of a royal knight, but just kind of in a small village. And Celica is sent to a convent, and she prays and is like a warrior priestess. And so then, like, as they grow up, they have like kind of differing opinions on how the kingdom that they're a part of should proceed in like this war between kingdoms. And so like it's a very simple, the story of these two characters coming back together and having different opinions on like what to do. It's very like interesting and nuanced in a way where like these characters have different political opinions, and that's causing the rift between them. It's not that like, oh, I'm from an alternate version of the future where you've all been wiped out. So
Well, in that same vein, just from like the gameplay videos and the images that I've seen, one of the things that uh doesn't really appeal to me about modern
mhm,
Fire Emblem is like that waifu like type thing,
sure.
and like the man, what's the name of that like ridiculous character in Fire Emblem Heroes?
Oh yeah.
Like that sort of
Yeah, and
like aesthetic.
she's in Fates, the game between Awakening and this one. Camilla is that
Camilla,
character's name,
yeah, it's just like that aesthetic isn't appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen is like the design in Shadows of Valentia is more grounded,
Yeah,
in the
for
same way
sure.
that the story is. I guess
Mhm.
it just feels more classic.
Yeah, so that's definitely apparent. That like all of these, it's obviously all the assets are redone, everything's rewritten. There's voice acting for like everything, but it's apparent that all of the art and all of the characters are like stem from a very classic 8-bit driven design, right? Like, um, it's it feels so much like an early Final Fantasy game, um, that I almost get like I have a sense of longing for like a game I didn't play when I was 10, you know? So I do think that it is more modest in a lot of ways, and it's not trying to be crazy in its presentation, in its gameplay, and especially in its story. So like you're right, there aren't going to be the, busty ladies with like exposed stomachs and stuff. Um, yeah, but there's still no like limit to the number of interesting characters I've encountered. The game does, you've got these two protagonists, Alm and Celica, and you spend the first. I'm in the third act of the game right now. I think there are 5 main acts and then a sixth like post game act. And the first act is all Alm's story, and he has his own army, people that you collect along the way. And I think I've got something like 9 or 10 characters with Alm right now. And then Act 2 is all basically Celica starting over on her side of the continent. And again, I've got like 8 or 9 characters in her army. So there's just so many of these characters, and I'm like interested in them. I'm interested in their personalities. And there's like a little bit of flirtation between characters, but no one's really, I think partially because there's like no end goal of like these characters need to end up together. I need to get them to rank S, which I assume stands for sexy, so that they can reproduce and have a future child. Um, yeah, I mean it seems simpler. All of that is simplified.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're uh comparing it to kind of like an early Final Fantasy game that you never played,
Mm-hmm.
because where Fire Emblem is now and where like Final Fantasy is now, it's you sometimes forget that it came from this place of like the aesthetic is very like medieval,
Yes.
and the stories are about like warring kingdoms and
Yes.
like things like that. And there are also dungeons in this game, right?
Yes. So this is another way that that this game is different from the other Fire Emblem games. Um, there are like explorable dungeons that you run around as either Alm or Celica.
And is that in 3D or like 2D?
It's in 3D.
Oh, interesting.
And I guess it's originally it was just like a top down, kind of like Zelda esque thing, and it has the feeling of um maybe like a kind of clumsy 3D Zelda. Like it's just not the smoothest thing. And like I wouldn't want to play a whole game of it, but I mean just like any like kind of menu based or turn based combat, you do sort of need a break from it every now and then. And going into these dungeons ends up being basically a different way to present the same kind of combat. So like you're running around a dungeon, and it's like free roaming. You can control the camera with your new 3DS nub, um, and you're hacking barrels and crates and stuff to find items that are left there, and every now and then you encounter an enemy, and you can either just run into them, or you can attack them, or they can attack you. And depending on how you start that encounter, like no matter what, you launch into a traditional Fire Emblem fight where it's a bunch of your characters versus a bunch of their characters on a grid. But if they attack you, then you're in a disadvantageous position with some health gone. And the opposite is true if you attack them. So it's cool, and I really do like it as a way to break up just what kind of the grind of these games can can be. But it's not like a I have a hard time saying that it's like a selling point of the game, right?
When you say it's like a pseudo Zelda dungeon, is there puzzle solving?
No. So I kind of just mean in the way that like the controller or the camera, its relationship to the character.
Oh, gotcha.
And just like kind of running around in an open 3D space. Like it is 3D. And you are moving around in a space, and it does feel like I think the one big advantage here is that it does effectively convey what the continent of Valencia is. The other way that this game kind of like breaks up the pacing is that when you go into villages, you like choose individual locations in the village that you're going to visit, and then you can talk to people there, or you can like look around for resources. And again, it's not something that like I would be super excited about playing a whole game of exploring the villages like this, but as it breaks up just tactical combat, it feels like rewarding in like a compelling way to tell the game's story and communicate the game's world. Like there's just so much history baked into this game, and it's all about the two warring kingdoms of Zofia and Rigel, right? It's not Rigel, Rigel, something like that. And you get a sense for who these kingdoms are, and the people that are either fighting for or fighting against them. So yeah, there are a lot of different little ways that it sells the experience of this game that you won't see in other Fire Emblem games. I think I would still recommend Awakening over this game, just because I don't know. I always feel like I have more control in Awakening. The characters in this game have one item slot. They can hold one item, and sometimes that's like a weapon that gives them extra. It gives them the ability to like learn extra skills, and sometimes it's like food or something to restore hit points. But there's really no way to a character is going to be what he is, regardless of what you equip him with. And something like Awakenings gives you more flexibility to tailor your characters or your party to whatever you're facing. And this all seems very like straightforward. You have these resources in this fight, figure it out.
Have you been playing on casual, or I don't know what the other one is called?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called either, but that's the one I'm playing. Not casual. When my characters die, they stay dead.
Oh, okay. I've heard that it's like that it gets like punishingly difficult.
So I've heard that as well, and I will just I will just take that punishment when I come to it. So far, it has not been punishingly difficult. And again, I'm only 10 hours into the game, only 3 acts in.
But 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I've restarted fights maybe 2 or 3 times because someone dies. But, like, it's funny because I won't let myself, like, if I lose a character, I'm like, well, I'm starting that fight over, which is like, well, why don't I just play on casual? But every now and then you have one of those fights that it's really difficult and you lose one person, but you made it, and you got to be like, all right, that was worth it. I'm gonna let him go. So yeah, I stand by my choice to not play on casual mode.
So I mean, I guess I'm just kind of guessing that the game will overall take you between maybe like 25 and 30 hours to finish.
I read that it takes upwards of 40
Okay.
to finish. So so it's possible that I am only now getting to the parts of the game that are really going to be challenging.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is the other games like Fates, are those shorter, longer? Like
No, so Awakening took me about that same amount of time, maybe even more. I did a lot of grinding in Fates, and Fates was also very well supported. No, not Fates, Awakening. Sorry, Awakening was very well supported with free DLC in the months and years after it came out, and I played it, maybe 3 years after it came out. So there was a bunch of extra stuff for me to just run around and do. And so I played that game like into the ground. Um, and if you end up playing all three scenarios in Fates, I'm sure you could play like 100 hours of that game. So I mean, they're all really weighty time investments. And but the thing that makes me not worry about, like, we were just saying about like Disgaea 5, where do you find the time to play another like super long game? And the bite-sized nature of a Fire Emblem fight, like you can feel as though you've accomplished something in just one match that'll take like anywhere from 10 minutes to like half an hour, and then just put it down. Like you don't need to be like actively engaged in like, oh, where am I in this castle or whatever. It's all like the experiences are like little capsules. You don't need to have it all linked together in your head or in your memory. Let's see what else about this game. Music's great. The music's really good in this game. Again, it feels a lot like I'm hearing a version of Final Fantasy. Like I'm getting that kind of experience of music for the first time, where it's all re-recorded with it's still synthesizers and stuff, but these symphonic sounding scores, which is all super cool. I don't know. I'm really enjoying the experience of the game, and like I'm not going to stop playing just because we've had our conversation about it.
would you want more games in this style? Or like do you at this point do you prefer the more modern or I guess more modern take on Fire Emblem?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Because the series didn't really explode until like the like matchmaking stuff happened.
Right. Yeah, and that's where I found it for sure. And that's always one of the things that I point to first when I say why I enjoyed Awakening as much as I did. Because the relationships mean something both on the battlefield and like in the cutscenes, and how you do one affects the other, which is super cool. But there's something so like simple and rewarding. This is one of the things about Awakening, is that if you've got the right type, right? If you're using the right rock, paper, or scissor against your opponent, and you're paired up with a unit that you have a good relationship with, you're gonna stomp that other unit. It's like there's this like auto win card, right? And this game does away with that. There aren't all of those like invisible little buffs to just make, where you're like, okay, I know how to do this. I'll just get these two axe guys together to fight this sword guy, and they've got a good, like there aren't the same little shortcuts. You just have to be strategic with where you position people and what the range of their attacks are. So, which do I prefer is the question.
Or are they just at this point like almost two different series?
I mean, it is. I think that is probably the accurate answer. If I were to recommend one, I would say Awakening. Yeah, I think that's just the cleanest, and has the most cool stuff happening in it. So what do you think? As someone who's been like watching the game just like from the sidelines, are you interested in it? Or is it something that?
And I think after our discussion, I'm still a little bit torn because and it's like your description of it as a kind of like Final Fantasy experience that you never had.
Yeah,
that really appeals to me. So for that reason, I would want to pick up Shadows of Valentia. But at the same time, it seems like the more like rewarding's not the word, but um I keep defaulting to like modern, but it's not really what I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, it does that like Awakening and Fates do like appeal to more modern sensibilities in gaming, like just that you will be rewarded in more traditional ways. So like, I was just bad mouthing it a second ago, but like having that sort of workaround hack where you're like, oh, I can take these guys down, no problem. Figuring that out, remembering to do it, and executing on it feels great, when you can walk in there and like stomp, and when you're dealing over 100 damage or something, you feel powerful, and that's just not what that's really not what this game is.
I mean, I guess the good news is that um like I can pick up Fate or Awakening for $20
Yeah,
and uh
and play it for like 100 hours.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about there's a $45 season pass for DLC on this game, and I can like there's no way I'm gonna get it. There was a little bit where I was like, oh, some of these early DLC missions would be fun to do, but I mean, there's gonna be enough to this game without digging in for more, basically buying the game a second time.
It'll be interesting to see how it does.
Yeah, the DLC
or just the game in general.
Sure.
Because it is different for people who have come to the series more recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Fire Emblem is much bigger than it has been in the past. So I'm guessing it won't perform. I was gonna say it won't perform as well as like a new title, but at the same time, it is for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, it totally feels like a new. Like I said, there's so much voice acting in this game. Nearly every it's rare when I'm talking to like a character that's named Villager or like Old Timer or something that it's not voice acted.
I guess in some way, just the way it was like kind of surprise announced and then released a few months later, and the fact that it's a remake makes it feel like lesser a little bit. Not so much as like a prestige release.
Yeah, I feel like remake is selling it short. Because it really is like a reimagining and representation of the game. I'm sure a lot of the mechanics are the same, but it just looks so much like a modern Fire Emblem game. And again, the voice acting and the localization is solid. And it's not gonna like blow you away, but it is. We were playing Persona 5 recently, and the localization and the voice acting in this game is better than it is in Persona 5. Which is a low bar. But I mean, that's it's like that's the level that we're talking about here. There's something else I wanted to say about this game too. I can't remember right now. Oh, okay. Two things. One is that I recently purchased a stand for my Switch that kind of like holds it. It's a little unfolding black thing that has a little cradle that I can put the Switch into so that I can play it in tabletop mode and have it like up a little bit and have it not rely on that.
Right, because the kickstand, is, I mean, it's just not ideal.
It's just not ideal.
Unless you're sitting at like a high table or something.
Right. Or if you're a tiny child.
Yes.
And so this thing arrived on Friday, and I was like, wait a minute, I could put my 3DS in here, which is great because the game, like I said, talks a lot, right? There's a lot of recorded dialogue, so there's a lot of the game that I don't need to be holding a 3DS in my hand. So I've played most of this game with my 3DS propped up in this stand. So I guess that's one tip if you're gonna play this game and listen to all the cutscenes. Get a stand or get some other way to, because otherwise it's just holding this thing for a long period of time, and the 3DS isn't light. And it's also just you got to hold it in kind of a weird way. So it's stand definitely recommended. I said two things, didn't I? What was the other thing? Mark, the stand? I don't know. We'll say that was it. Was the stand. Yeah. So yeah, I'm enjoying the game. And I'm gonna keep playing it with not touching it with my hands.
Yeah, I think you I don't know. I came into this not really thinking I was going to pick it up, but I think I might.
Here's something to consider, and the second thing I was going to say. I have rediscovered the battery life on the 3DS. It's not great. And I don't know if it is running shorter because the game is graphically intensive and there's...
Is it in 3D?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes. Like
like
the 3D slider.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I have not had the 3D on.
Because why would you?
Because why would you? But I have to, a fresh charge of this thing wears down in like 3.5 hours, and then I have to put it down and walk away for a little while while it charges. So that's remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about, well, why would you want to buy a new 2DS? I would like to find out details on battery life on those things. If they've improved it any from the 3DS XL, I would be interested in it for just that purpose. And I guess it's nice that there's like a limit to be like, hey, you've been playing this game for too long, go outside. But you don't want to always have to be returning to a charging cable to keep it going. Other thing, the 3DS
mystery third thing.
Mystery third thing. The 3DS charging cable is the only thing that looks like that. It's not the same like micro USB.
No. It's a custom charger.
Yeah. So like I went digging through the house and kept finding the wrong chargers
because it looks similar enough to mini USB that you think it should fit.
Right, and you're like, oh, this isn't it. And we're like, oh, what is this one in the drawer? Oh, this is it. No, no, that's not it either. Well, Mark, if you want to play a little bit of it before you leave here tonight, just to see if you enjoy it, we can do that.
Cool.
All right, let's move out of our discussion on Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. If you want to be part of the show or let us know how you feel about old Fire Emblem versus new Fire Emblem, you can always write into us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com.
Or you can get us on Facebook, which is where a lot of people got in touch with us this last week regarding our ranking of the 9 console Zelda games.
Our definitive ranking.
Definitive and irrefutable. It's nice to think that you could argue with our list, but of course our list is the one true list. Some of the reactions, I don't think the kind of acclaim for Breath of the Wild is as universal as we think it is.
Oh, interesting.
So had a number of people saying, so Stefan says, Breath of the Wild is probably the worst Zelda game of all time. No dungeons, no good story. There's a lot that I don't feel like mentioning here that could have had for a Zelda title. That seemed to be a common recurring thing. No dungeons, no story. I don't know what's your reaction to that?
I don't think those are unfair critiques.
Right.
I think it's just like, what do you want out of a Zelda game?
Mm-hmm.
Especially dungeons. I would hope that in future iterations on this Breath of the Wild model that we see more robust dungeons.
Yeah.
Even if that means like in this instance there were the 4 divine beasts, like having those be a little bit more involved.
Yeah.
I think so. To me, Breath of the Wild is kind of like more modern Zelda dungeons have kind of become like puzzle rooms.
Yes.
Right? So it's just like go into this room and you can't leave until you solve the puzzle, and then that opens a door and you go into the next room and you can't leave until you solve the puzzle. Like, it's like...
Right. Which is antithetical to the way the rest of that game works.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's... But, I mean, basically what... So, like, in Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, like, but that's how, like, the big dungeons worked, right? It was, like, room, with its own puzzle that connects to another room with its own puzzle.
Yeah.
For the most part. And Breath of the Wild has that. They just broke it up into shrines,
right,
and took it all around the world. As far as story goes, I don't really disagree with that. I would like to see a more robust story, but next time I would like to see more robust dungeons next time. But I think there's a, I don't know that Breath of the Wild will always be my favorite. The next one might be better.
Yeah, exactly. And when we decide that the list can be edited, then the list will be edited.
Yes,
and not before.
No.
Unless you're from Australia, then let us know. Here's another comment from James, who says, "My favorites have always been Wind Waker and Link to the Past, but Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are right up there for me. And I really didn't mind Skyward Sword. I was never a big fan of Zelda 2, Spirit Tracks, or Phantom Hourglass." And then I had commented that it's a shame that Skyward Sword is kind of saddled with the motion controls now. And he just went on to lament the controls in the touch-based Zelda games.
We didn't talk about it because it's handhelds, and we have been thinking of doing that as its own separate irrefutable list.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Phantom Hourglass.
Yep.
I think Spirit Tracks is garbage. I think it's a really bad game.
I think they're very similar games. So we may disagree with it when it comes to, and I think Link driving a train is cute.
Oh, hated the trains.
It does raise an interesting question though of like those three games are so tied to their platforms and how like those games or those systems controlled that they're going to be weird little relics of time unless there are some workarounds there. Ricky gave his own list that just went Breath of the Wild, Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2. And then the comment, none of the other console games are worth my effort.
So he's pretty much like a 2D traditionalist with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
I almost feel like is fair because it's in the same, like, I really feel like Breath of the Wild is in the same spirit as the original Legend of Zelda.
I agree. But I think that for my money, Link to the Past is where it starts to diverge on the other path. But is also one of the greatest games ever made. So I guess I can agree with all of those. And there are other comments on there as well. If you want to read them yourself, you can head on over to the Facebook page, which again is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. You can find us on Twitter. We are NinCart Society on Twitter.
Yeah, and I mean, thanks to everybody who commented and let us know your thoughts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And did so without including Sonic porn. We appreciate that very much.
And you know, if you need to include Sonic porn, we're just do what you got to do. You do you.
Yeah.
Right? And if you want to make your own Sonic character and then put them into your Sonic porn, you will soon be able to do that as well. We would love for you to rate and review us on iTunes. Also, tell your friends. You know someone who plays Nintendo and isn't listening to this show. Tell them what's up. If you go over to whatscreative.com, you can find more podcasts like us. And you'll probably find something there that you like. If you like Marker Mind's opinions, you can check out our reviews of comic books and discussions thereof on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more of his music on 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?